I'm sort of been living this story, so I forget that not everybody in the world knows what is going on with this. But Income Store was marketed themselves as a group where if you wanted to get into website investing, right, you wanted to own or to have a website that produced income passively every single month, that you could give them money and then they would go and find the site for you, and then they would manage it for you and then split the revenue with you, the profits, every month, basically in perpetuity. And so they were advertising on XM radio, and they had billboards, and they're going around the country and just soliciting investors. But people weren't supposed to be investing in the company. They were giving Income Store money under a contract, and that money should have been held separate and then used to buy a website, and then Income Store would run it. And so that's how they marketed themselves. And what ended up happening, and I say allegedly because they haven't come out and said this, but they got to a point where they had to shut down their business, and the government shut them down. The SEC shut them down because Income Store wasn't able to make good on their promises to pay the revenue out to the site partners, the people who had invested. They didn't really invest in the company. Again, they gave their money as a deposit on the websites that were going to be purchased. But what happened was they got upside down in their payments because they guaranteed these payments. And so then new website partners were coming in and giving Income Store their money to buy a site. And instead of buying the site, Income Store was using those funds to pay out previous investors. So they could make their guaranteed payments, because the guarantee was what made this whole thing secure and attractive. It says, you give us our money, and it doesn't matter if we have a site for you, we will pay you at least a certain amount of money a month. And it came to my attention because somebody who had been following my channel, said, hey, I just got into this. I just gave them $100,000. I think you should too. It's really great. They guarantee everything. I'm going to start getting my payments in month 4. It's going to be awesome. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. At the time I thought, well, if these guys are legit, think of all the people who I see who come through my YouTube channel who are beginners, who are really interested in website investing, but they're afraid of making that mistake, right? That unrecoverable mistake. So they're trying to hedge their risk. Let's go with a company that has tons of experience, that will guarantee the payments, that they will hold the money aside, and they'll give you approval rights over the sites that you're going to buy, and they're only going to buy sites from brokers, and this is going to be safe. This is going to be secure. And then it turns out that they were giving their money to a company that wasn't doing anything that they said they were doing. You probably haven't read the court documents, but basically the company was using that money it's like a slush fund, right? Like you were investing in Income Store. They were upside down, but in the last year they gave $500,000 to charity. They were paying for meals and plane tickets. They were paying out site partners, and they took in at least $91 million.
Wow. Crazy.
Somebody quoted the number as 131 million, and they owe the majority of it to investors.
Wow.
Right now.
So, well, that was a long
Hey, sorry, I'm obsessed with it.
But you described it really well, and I 100% was never heard of it, didn't know any of it until I think maybe a couple of your videos popped up, and I watched a couple minutes because, again, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that they were advertising nationally or the scope of the amount of money. But it's basically, you described a Ponzi scheme, right? Like that's literally what it is, like per definition.
That's what the receiver, and that's what the government is calling it, is a Ponzi scheme.
Okay. And in my head, it's easy for me to sit here and say it now that you just told me the whole story, but I'm like, no investment is like guaranteed. Like that's just bananas. And since I know like websites and the volatility, it's even more insane. I guess they were selling it well, and they're master marketers. And yeah, it's a shame, especially there's basically probably no recourse for people that lost the whatever $90+ million. Yeah, that's terrible. But in my head, I'm just like, yeah, if anything seems like too good to be true with like guaranteed returns, like total bullshit. Like I would just not, I don't trust anyone. I'm so skeptical of anything. So in my head, I'm
Yeah,
just
but
like,
you know, you weren't like their market. Like, they weren't targeting people like you who already had experience running a website, and you know, people who already knew about Google and about website operation. I mean, we're not that target audience. The target audience is people who are on the outside looking in. The words passive, the words guaranteed. You know, these were a, you know, married couple. You know, the wife, Carrie Courtwright, was in politics. You know, graduated from they like Pepperdine Business School. Like, featured, you know, the like big names on YouTube were interviewing them, and I mean, they, you know, they basically hit every single trust signal that they could possibly hit to snag people who were like looking for things that were passive and guaranteed and easy and investment. You know, it's like the volatility of the stock market versus this other return, you know, and it's like, if you do buy and sell in websites and website investing, you'll see plenty of content out there where people will go in and buy a site, and then the ROI on it will be like 50%, 70% in the first year. Like, there's a lot of amazing things you can do in website investing. And so 15% when compared to 80%, that seems really conservative, right? Like, oh, you know, 15% in a year, like that's a small amount. That seems like a reasonable amount for a company that is one of the fastest growing companies in the country, that, you know, has revenues of millions of dollars in a year. And I mean, they just hit every single one of the buttons. They just hit it.